So kids, this morning we are not offering a story for all ages. Instead, we are going to be dedicating our new Black Lives Matter banner. This is not the one that will be outside. The other one is bigger, but this one fits inside. So we wanted you to be part of this morning so you can have some understanding of what we are doing as a church. So my sense is that some of you kids, have you ever heard this phrase, Black Lives Matter, before? Raise your hand if you have. And maybe you know what it's about, and maybe you don't. Maybe you've overheard bits and pieces. But the saying points to a sad truth that I really don't want to have to tell you about. I want you each to feel safe and loved and to know the goodness of this life that we share. But my guess is that already on some level, you know that not everyone chooses to respect each other or our planet, that sometimes people make choices that cause pain to one another. And the truth is, the people started crying out, Black Lives Matter, after several black teenagers were hurt and sometimes killed in their own neighborhoods. Sadly and horribly, we live in a time when violence against black people is far too often accepted by our society. And as a church, we do not accept this. Each life is precious. Say this with me. Each life is precious. And so this week we are placing a Black Lives Matter banner outside of our church to declare this, that each life is precious. But you notice the banner doesn't say each life is precious, does it? No, it says Black Lives Matter. And there's a really important reason why we're not putting up a banner that says each life is precious, but that we're saying Black Lives Matter. And that's because large numbers of black people are being targeted right now. They're being hurt, they're being abused, they're being thrown out of classrooms at a higher rate than white kids are. And some of them are being pulled over by the police far more often than white people are, simply because they're black. And they are being killed sometimes. And it is happening far too often. And we believe that that is not okay. And so sadly, we have to declare this for ourselves and for our community. We have to declare that Black Lives Matter. This past summer at General Assembly, delegates from Unitarian Universalist churches all over the country voted to pass a statement in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. This morning, we are going to share a slightly adapted version of that statement as we publicly take a stand with all of those who affirm the dignity and worth of black people.
Unitarian Universalists strive for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We have a goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. To allow injustice to go unchallenged would violate our principles.
Whereas the Black Lives Matter movement has gained powerful national traction, responding to police brutality and institutionalized racism that targets the black community.
Whereas Tanisha Anderson,
Rakia Boyd,
Michael Brown,
Miriam Carey,
Michelle Suzeau,
Shelley Fry,
Eric Garner,
Freddie Gray,
Trayvon Martin,
Kayla Moore,
Tamir Rice,
Tony Robinson,
Jamar Clark,
and John Crawford III are just a few of the names of the people who were recently killed by racism that exists in the United States today.
whereas people of all ages and races can be and sometimes are killed by law enforcement. Yet in 14 of the largest police departments in the nation, the only people killed by the police in 2015 were black people.
These police stations are St. Louis,
Atlanta,
Kansas City,
Cleveland,
Baltimore,
Virginia Beach,
Boston,
Washington, D.C.,
Minneapolis,
Raleigh,
Milwaukee,
Detroit,
Philadelphia.
and Charlotte, Mecklenburg.
These 14 police departments killed exclusively black people this year. In comparison, only 5 police departments of a similar size killed only whites.
whereas black people ages 20 to 24 are 7 times more likely to be killed by law enforcement than anyone else.
whereas mass incarceration fueled by for-profit prisons and racially biased police practices, drive the disproportionate imprisonment of Black and brown Americans, with 1 out of 3 Black men being incarcerated during his lifetime.
Whereas the school-to-prison pipeline is an urgent concern, with 40% of students who are expelled from public schools being Black.
Therefore, as it was resolved at the 2015 General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association, we resolve ourselves to action
to move closer to a just world community and to prevent future incidents of this nature. We will engage in intentional learning spaces to organize for racial justice, recognizing the interconnected nature of racism with class, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, and language.
we will work with others towards police reform and prison abolition by seeking to replace the current prison system with a system that is more just and equitable.
We recognize that the fight for civil rights and equality is as real today as it was decades ago. No matter who you are, Black Lives Matter. A system of fair, transformative, and restorative justice that is accountable to communities is something to which each of us has a right. We commit ourselves to help make this happen. By placing this banner on our church, we proclaim and affirm the inherent worth and dignity of Black lives and dedicate ourselves to the work of racial justice. May it be so. Among these people, it's a time for you to feel your feet on the floor, your back against the chair, as we share together in a spirit of meditation, reflection, or prayer. Sacred impulse toward justice, equity, and compassion. Divine source of all that empowers us to be courageous, even when we are uncertain and afraid. God of our shared humanity and our collective liberation yet to be realized. Today, as we dedicate our Black Lives Matter banner and prepare to have it displayed on our building, I have mixed feelings, some anxiety even. I have no ambivalence about the literal message of the banner. I have no doubt that Black lives do, in fact, matter. The Christian faith in which I was raised told me it was true. Every person is a child of God, every single one. The Unitarian Universalist faith I have claimed as an adult has been clear too. Every person has inherent worth and dignity, every single one. And I have no doubt that Black Lives Matter is a message that needs to be seen in a world where evidence abounds that Black lives too often do not matter, at least not as much as they should, as much as all lives should. Still, I have concerns. I fear that a Black Lives Matter banner on our building will convey negative meanings beyond our intentions, that some will view our banner as a declaration that some lives do not matter, or that we who celebrate its message in this overwhelmingly white congregation will be seen as wagging our fingers at those we assume are not as wise and evolved as we think we are, as though we have already done all that we can to understand and dismantle the culture of white supremacy that dehumanizes us all, as though we are waiting for everyone else to figure out what we already know, as though we do not have our own learning and unlearning and justice seeking and justice making to do, as though we do not still need transformation ourselves. And so, even as I am proud of us for taking a stand on the side of love and on behalf of our principles, I have fear too. I have fear that our banner, without continued action behind it, could make us seem like posers and pretenders. I have fear because I don't want our passion to be misplaced. I don't want, in our trying so hard to get it right, to end up getting it wrong. But every time my anxiety tempts me to pull back, the words of Black organizer Maurice Mitchell call out to me and keep me committed and courageous. He says, "Your individual anxiety about possibly getting things wrong has nothing to do with my liberation." Your individual anxiety about possibly getting things wrong has nothing to do with my liberation. And so, creative spirit of courage and love, help us to be brave in the solidarity we show with all lives as we proclaim that Black lives matter. Let our banner, once placed on our building, agitate us and hold us accountable to our highest principles and ideals. Let it inspire us to engage in difficult conversations, give us strength to stick with our commitments to find and promote the truth, even in the face of defensiveness, dismissal, and distrust, and continue to call us toward helping to bring about the world we do not yet see, the world in which Black lives are treated with the same dignity and worth afforded to white lives, a world of freedom, a world of justice, a world of liberation, a world where all lives truly do matter at last. All lives are one human family, interconnected and interdependent. By our will, by our action, by our willingness to be brave and to be ourselves transformed, may it be so. Let's be silent together as we breathe our common breath, the breath of life.
Our banner will send a message to all who pass by, and for this I am glad. But more than anything, I hope the message will speak to those who pass by and then they turn right, and they turn right again into our very own parking lot. Yes, yes. Because this banner is not merely the end of a sentence, it's not a period. The banner is meant to agitate us and call us to action. It is an invitation to remember our values, our beliefs about the very nature of life and people. There is no way that anyone who is religious right now cannot speak and not respond to the degradation of life that we are witnessing in our society. And so I ask you, what will this banner mean for you? When you see it, what will it call you to? How will it change you? There are ways that you can get involved in work in our wider community through our church. In the foyer after the services, there's a registration table with some upcoming educational and civic opportunities to engage. I invite you to talk to those people to learn more. Are you good at working with kids, helping people resolve conflict? Maybe you want to be involved in our Second Chance mediation program or our Let's Talk, where we work with middle school kids or youth to keep them out of the school to prison pipeline. Maybe that's not your thing, but you're good at coordinating volunteers and you can help those people stay organized. Maybe you're interested in helping to change the prison system and you want to help pass legislation that will ban racial profiling, and you can come join our Restorative Justice Working Group here at the church, who's also working with Amos and 29 other institutions in Des Moines to create larger change in our place. Maybe you'll join the NAACP or the ACLU. Maybe you'll donate money to the Black Lives Matter movement. Maybe you'll ask your children different questions about what's happening at school and which kids are being thrown out of the classroom. Maybe you'll ask your child's teacher about this when you go in for a parent-teacher conference. Maybe you'll listen to your child or your teacher's responses a little differently. Maybe there are ways for you to make a change in your workplace. Maybe there are opportunities for you to speak up about the people in your lives, or yourself, if you're a person of color, about what you have experienced. Maybe you'll find a way to keep your heart nourished if you are a person of color living in our town and you see this sign, knowing that we live in a city that struggles to give up white superiority even as our demographics are dramatically changing. What will this banner mean to you? It's clear that when we see it, when we see Black Lives Matter, we will be reminded of the horrific gap that exists between reality and who we know we can be together as a society. And in this way, the sign will bless us. When we see Black Lives Matter, we will remember our wholeness and the wholeness of all the people who share this place with us, and in this way, it will bless us. When we see it and it calls us to our rage, and we work for change, then we know we have been blessed. May it be a blessing unto our congregation. May it be a blessing unto all who drive by. May it agitate us to be the blessing that this world so very desperately needs. Amen.